Greetings, creative warriors, and welcome to another edition of Ugly, Irresponsible, and Childish, where two industry veterans talk about the unrelenting pursuit of creativity and the people, work, and culture that either celebrates or suffocates it. I'm one of your hosts, Mark Levy.
And I'm Jeremy Baca. Good to see you again, my friend. Always seems like ages in between our discussions.
Good to see you as well. Before we get into today's topic, there's something that I wanted to share because I came across something, and for the record, I know I am late to the game on this.
All right.
Okay. But I think it was the day before yesterday was the 2-year anniversary of Kendrick Lamar's release of Not Like Us.
Mm.
And somebody did a video mashup of all of the reaction videos from hip hop influencers listening to that rap for the first time.
Yes.
And it is the funniest fucking thing I have ever seen in my life. Again, I know I'm late to the game on this, but just scroll through Reddit, search for Not Like Us, or search for Kendrick Lamar or whatever, but you have to find this video. It is ridiculously entertaining. So that is my do you remember MTV's Hip Clip of the Week? Do you remember?
I don't remember that. I certainly remember MTV. Yeah, I remember no, that was which was the one that did the bubble. The bubbles would come up and
That was VH1's
VH1
pop-up video.
Yeah. Pop-up video.
Yeah. Well, back in the late 80s, early 90s, they used to do the Hip Clip of the Week, and this is my throwback to that. It's so beyond brilliant. Like, you can't stop watching it. I might have watched it 24 times.
Dude,
and when I say 24, I mean 50 since yesterday. So it's I urge you all to go out and scan that. But that's it. That's all I got to say today. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Again, I'm your host.
And just to let you know, I'm a total sucker for that kind of a send up. If a car salesman goes, this car right here, oh my God, the people who said they love this car, we only have one more. I'm like, I'll take it. Give it to me, please.
The interesting thing about that rap for me is that it doesn't rely on metaphor at all.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't he just said, you're a pedophile.
Yes. Yes.
Don't speak on Serena. Like, he's not trying to hide anything. He is throwing heat from the opening beat, and just the way people are reacting, not knowing what we all know now. But when you're hearing this for the first time, people are just in disbelief that he's just opening, all of it. And it's an amazing rap. The Super Bowl performance was electric. I'll echo someone's comment on Reddit. I have no idea how Kendrick got a billionaire like Serena Williams to actually appear on stage for the sole purpose of just dissing her ex.
Yes.
But man, it's just epic. Go find it.
I got to tell you, and for those who don't know, I play the guitar. I've written, I don't know, hundreds of songs. I'm more of the James Taylor folk style country music stuff. Or anything.
Can everybody see that?
There's my CD from back in 1980 or 91 or something.
You gave this to me in 2005 or 6, and I have held on to it
Is there
And
a
I've
coffee
held on to
cup
it since
stain
then.
on that? Is there a coffee cup stain on that? Are you using it as a coaster? No, I'm kidding.
It was propping up our dining room table on one end for the longest time, but
Uh, dude, our friend Rob Page, who's been on this show, he actually put that on eBay, and the highest it went was 6 cents. And he came in and showed that that prick. But
wow.
I was that was my lead in, and not certainly not to boast my career. You could see where it ended. But is that I think hip hop and rap is some of the most intricate music that I think is not appreciated. Well, it is appreciated by certain groups and people, but man, the way they rap lyrics together and the beat and the rhythms, inventing words, and the lyrics are just wicked. I just am so, in fact, I have my car dial in the car tuned to a hip hop station. I'm just like, just really very accomplished. And I don't think people appreciate that because a lot of it is the same beat, or some of it maintains the same beat throughout. So everybody just dismisses it for that reason. But man, if
Yeah.
you really listen to what's going on, it's like, fuck, how did they come up with that?
Yeah. And the thing that's always been surprising, and then once you think about it, makes perfect sense, is that there's, uh, aside from like a beat or a track that's being laid down,
Yeah.
there's so little instrumentation
Yes.
that goes on with rap that the lyrics are forced to do all the work.
Yeah.
So almost by definition, the lyrics have to be
Yes.
intricate and incredible because if not, it's just going to start sounding
Yes.
all the same. Just like a lot of
Totally.
hair metal bands,
Yeah.
like
Or
in the
country,
'80s, went
or
through this.
country. Yeah. And
Country, exactly.
and it is so pervasive and hyper in some levels that they're on to the third line and you're just going, oh, that's what he meant about 3 lines ago, and they're already half. You're like, fuck,
Right,
just trying to process it. It's just so great.
right.
Love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good stuff. Okay, that's
But
it. I'm done with that part of it. I just wanted
well,
to get that out.
what was the title of that song? I can never remember it. What is it?
Not like us.
Oh, perfect, because I it was my segue. So from Not Like Us to It Ends With Us, we're going to be talking today uh, about, that's right, ladies and gentlemen, Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, but not specifically about the case. But and for those of you that have not gone outside for the last 3 years or whatever it's been, 2 years, I'm talking about this legal battle where Lively accused Baldoni and his company, Wayfarer Studios, of sexual harassment on set and claimed they orchestrated a retaliatory effort, smear campaign against her. Baldoni said the same thing about her in some regard to that, those retaliations. So there was this suit going back and forth. And over time, the judges dismissed both of those. They settled out of court. I'm sorry, they settled out of court the sexual
With
harassment.
They settled out of court with everybody dropping charges.
That's right. Oh, did they? I didn't
Yeah,
know they did that. I didn't know they
yeah.
revealed.
And that's the because we are nothing if not timely. That's part of the reason we're talking about this today because it was just a couple of weeks ago. So maybe not that timely, but it was just a couple of weeks ago that after the numbers might be wrong here a little bit, but 10 of Lively's 13 claims were dismissed, and she dropped the other three with prejudice. And I just want to be clear to everybody out there: we are not in any way, shape, or form taking anybody's side here, because at the end of the day, and it's often problematic with these kind of legal entanglements, we're never going to know the truth of what really happened between the two of them. And I'm not just talking about the sexual harassment
Yeah,
element of this. It's the whole just shit show that turned out to be this movie, which turned out to be not very good at
I
the end of the
love the
day.
movie.
Really?
I love that movie.
Oh my God! I tried to watch it.
Really?
with my kids, and I was like, I am out. I have
Dude,
no interest
now I have
in
to go back
anything
and
that's
watch it
going
again.
on screen. But
Yeah, all right.
and we're not attempting to relitigate any of the facts.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
Jeremy, you came to me with a kind of almost like a forgotten piece of this case because you're caught up in the celebrity gossipy side of it, that we forget what really spurred a lot of this, and was responsible for a lot of the fallout that happened afterwards.
yeah.
And that's really what we're going to talk about today.
Right. And that involves, and that because of course the sexual harassment and all of those other things are lightning rods, right? That's lightning and revenge and retaliation and all that dominated the headlines. But as you and I were talking, Mark, you sift through all that, and we're not going to go into that per your point. Who knows? And frankly,
Right.
uh, move on both parties, and let's no harm, no foul. Let's keep going.
Yeah,
But
and
what?
I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I want to just hammer this home because
yeah,
when I shared this topic with my daughters, they had a
yeah,
very visceral reaction
yeah,
to this. And it's that this is not a situation where we're pulling a Trump-esque, oh, the bad things happen on both sides.
yes,
Just the fact of the matter is we don't know. We only
yeah,
know what's been said
yeah,
about it. So
yeah,
we're not in a position to make any kind of judgment. Not that anybody would fucking listen to either of us anyway, but we're focused on something very specific about the entire situation.
yeah. I mean, give us a break. Mark just found out about Kendrick Lamar, so for God's sakes, he doesn't know anything about this shit. Yeah, call us that. We'll do another episode next year when we have a better understanding of what's going on here. But
Right.
the underlying topic that we found compelling was creative control. And both and Lively and Ryan Reynolds and Baldoni were in this internal struggle for creative control, and that's certainly something Mark and I have faced and explored, and a challenge that we've had in our own industry. And when you think about creative control, you're saying, well, Blake Lively, she's just an actress. Well, hold on a second, she was also producer. And
Mhm.
producers often do come forward with comments on everything from wardrobe to sensitivities on the film to sometimes they get, unless it's Joe Esterhaus, they have comments about the script. Tarantino will not take any of that from studios either, but there are such a thing in Hollywood in particular called creative producers. That's their title. And I, in fact, work with one who was a creative producer on Mad Men, and she had a lot of comments on, is this losing the pacing and the tone, and this happened also on such shows on shows in general in Hollywood where it tends to be a group effort a lot of times. So Mark and I were saying, what do you do in that situation when you want to do it, head one creative direction, right or wrong? I mean, everybody has, it's your own opinion, and so of course you think it's the way to go. But this person has a polar opposite opinion. Mark and I just did it. He hated the movie. I loved it. Who's right? I don't know. But how do you address those? So, Mark, in the course of your career, I'm assuming that's raised its ugly head, and that notion of control, who has it, who's allowed to have a say, and who isn't, and how do you manage that?
Yeah, it's been one of the biggest uh, stressors in my professional life, um, because the fact of the matter is, when you talk about creative control, uh, what rears its ugly head is that old cliche that success has many fathers, failure is an orphan.
Yes.
Um, because at the end of the day, what they're not talking about, and when I say that, I'm talking about agencies that we work with. What they're not talking about is creative responsibility, right? If an idea dies, the responsibility lies with the creative director,
Mhm.
right? And it's always been that way. And it's unless there is a very specific order to overrule an approach that we're advocating for, it's more like death by a thousand cuts, where different things and an idea are changed every day by different people making different comments, and suddenly the idea, even the core of the idea, bears little resemblance to what you had originally intended. um, what we're talking about is where the blame will rest
Yes.
after something like this, because nobody's going to stand up and say, something, this really isn't Jeremy's fault because he had this idea and I changed it to this, and the idea died in front of the client. So boy, point the finger at me. That's something. I'll take things that have never been said in a PR agency for 200. It's really frustrating, and you know we'll share some opinions and points of view on how to navigate through that. But it's something that in certainly in my career has never been solved for.
Dude, I must tell you, in fact, I'm going to act out for you a speech that I did, and this is a 1 minute one.
Okay.
I was working on Hampton Hotels. Yeah.
Okay.
And so Hampton invited all of its agencies back then. Back in the day, it was the direct marketing agency, it was the ad agency, it was graphic design agency, it was the PR agency, us, and all their agencies gathered in Memphis, where Hampton is based. And what they wanted to talk about, the topic was how to work more efficiently, more effectively, and crank out quality ideas and campaigns and successful campaigns, et cetera. And so the brand lead stands up in front of everybody as this offsite gathering continued. She said, "Now, in this phase, I want you each to stand up, or anybody who wants to stand up and say something that's hindering our process, hindering our ability to get to some really amazing creative. Please stand up and share it." Now, immediately, what everybody's doing is going, "Okay, how honest do we want to be?" Because a lot of the problem was on the client side, et cetera. No one's standing up or saying anything. So, of course, that's my dive in point. And I stood up and I said, in fact, rather than tell you what I think one of the issues is, I'm going to show you. And I go, "Here's how the creative process works here." I said, we come up with an idea at our agency and we say, we have an idea and it's called paper. And you write on it. Now, what we're instructed to do is we take it to the ad team, and the ad team weighs in on it. And the ad team says, it's close, but it really doesn't have the right tone. So we need to have it the right tone. Our next step is then we have to take it to the junior team at the Hampton in the Hampton marketing department. The junior team weighs in and says, "Well, that's way too expensive. So we absolutely cannot do it for that much, but we can do it for that much." Then we take it for the graphics team, and the graphic team says, "Well, the texture is kind of wrong on that thing, and so we think it should be more like this." And then we finally get to the senior group, the senior brand manager at Hampton, who says, "I love it, except this isn't really what we're all about right there." I said, "Then you tell us to take this. This is what we get." And we go to the media and say, "Look, this is paper and you can write on it." And everybody just sat there quietly. And the head of the brand says, "Thank you, Jeremy. Anybody else?" And she did concede that there are, and this is what I was saying earlier, is everybody can't have their handprints on things because it bastardizes it sometimes. And
Right.
and and Joe said on our show, he's like, "Well, I take good ideas if they're good ideas." Well, but you're the one deciding if it's good ideas, right? So
Exactly.
how do you navigate that? I mean, how do you avoid this?
It's it's ridiculously difficult, and especially to your, I appreciate that dramatic reading, especially if you're dealing with a committee, right? I had a big sign on my office door for years that said, and I don't remember who authored this quote, but uh, a committee is a cul-de-sac down which ideas are lured and quietly strangled.
Yeah.
Um, so like that's a whole other layer of this that, and we've talked about, some of that before. Um, that's something that, at least in my head, the way I've kind of tried to think about things is like, all right, these guys are assholes, but honestly, there's nothing I can do about it, and no one is really going to fall on their sword to back me up.
Right.
Having nothing to do with me and everything to do with the way the committee is structured.
Yes.
Um, where I've faced the most uh, challenges, the most problems, the most issues is when it's friendly fire,
Yeah.
right? When it's coming from your
Yep.
own team, your own agency, your own leadership.
Yeah.
Uh, and another quote, and I should remember this one because I never actually used this. I've just wanted to use it a million times when somebody has said, "Well, actually, it should be this." And the response I've always wanted to deliver was, "You're confusing creativity with having an opinion."
Yeah. Mic drop.
And at the end of the day, no, for good reason, nobody wants to hear that. And there's also a difference because one of the things that Jeremy and I have also said, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm pretty positive that you would agree that the big idea, the great concept can come from anywhere. It can come from us. It can come from an intern. It can come from the head of finance. Like the ideas can come from anyone. So we're not necessarily even talking about people adding to the idea mix during the initial brainstorming process. What we're talking about is how decisions are made and where control is exercised around the end product.
Yeah, that's true. And it's even broader than that because I talked to one guy who worked at a ad agency. I forget what ad agency, but he said, dude, let me tell you something. The account team could only weigh in on two issues. One, for any idea, is it on brand? And two, does it springboard off the research? Anything else,
Right.
they couldn't say we think it's too risky. We think you should do it in New York instead of Los Angeles. We think it's too expensive. Nothing. And to me, that's so suffocating. I mean, and you and I have talked to this about this a lot about Pixar and their brain
Shredding.
trust. Yeah,
Yeah.
the brain trust where they bring people in and they just shred the story and the script and the first cut at the film. They shred it, and everybody sits there and everybody has their swing at the person who's at the center of it all, and then they discuss it. I don't know, what is it, 14, 15, 16 Academy Awards for animated film. Hard to argue with that, but I always believed that before we get to let's bring in only the creatives, there needs to be this broader invitation to. That's why I started the International Creative Network of 100 different of our employees around the world because
You're
not
talking about the
everybody's.
you're talking about
Yeah,
the Creative Catalyst Network
I'm
that you
sorry,
have.
the Creative Catalyst Network. Yes, the International Creative Catalyst Network. And because I discovered that, guess what? Shocker to this American, not everybody thinks like Americans. South America thinks entirely different. Germany different. Milan, Shanghai, they all come at ideas from completely different ways. Let's just open it up and just hear what they have to say. We can go into our conclave. That's fine. But first, let's open that aperture and a perfect two examples of that. One, I told you about this earlier, Mark, but the ALS Foundation, the Ice Bucket Challenge, I worked on that account, and the person that was there when this happened said the idea came from a patient. The Ronald McDonald House. That idea stemmed from a franchisee. He just felt horrible about his McDonald's was near the hospital, and he'd see parents coming there and having to pay for the hospitals, and they're eating at McDonald's because it's cheap and they can't afford anything else. He's like, what can we do about that? What
Mm.
if? So I mean, at least this is what was told to me. I mean, I haven't AI'd that or checked that out, but uh,
Right.
I don't know why they'd lie. Maybe it got urban legend took over there somewhere. But I'm just saying, there you got to keep that aperture open. But when does it narrow? When do you close it and go into the? These are people that, as one creative guy said to me, everybody's creative, but then there are creatives, people who do it for a living,
Right.
and that's where the line is drawn.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I mean, let me ask you this. How deep have you gone into battle when you're trying to express your view of things versus, because I know for me, I always go like, okay, full throttle, right? Punch it through the floor. And not surprisingly, it has almost never worked out for me. When I get overruled, there's not much I can do to change that, despite my best efforts of fighting for it, both rationally and emotionally. I'm curious how often do you go to die on that hill?
I die on it a lot, but I would say uh, the majority of those times were respectfully, and I kept it cordial. But I'd say over the course of my career, a dozen times, I went publicly ballistic, exploding on phones 2 years ago. I wrote a sweeping manifesto for a brand manifesto that kind of articulates the concept and how it links to the brand. And I spent days, for those of you who have never written a manifesto or any ad copy or anything like that, it just doesn't flow. I mean, you got to work on it because there are so many things you've got to make sure you're satisfying the client, you're bringing the idea to life, you're bumping in the results, you're talking about how it's different from it, all in like a couple paragraphs, or
Right.
9 lines or whatever it might be. And it's the day before the pitch, and there comes my manifesto. It is completely different. It's no longer a paragraph. It's 7 short paragraphs. I mean, it's just the writing. I said, and the person's going, so, Cindy, do you want to read through the manifesto? I go, what is this? And they're like, what do you mean? That's not who wrote that? Who on this call wrote? And I went ape shit, and there's nothing but silence. I said, this is insulting. This is rude. This is not where you play. This is where I play. And I did the full on diva. I'm the creative dude. You're not. You're pieces of shit that I allow in my kingdom now and then. Uh, and and so there were a lot of follow-up emails of apologies, but I did. No one said anything, and finally, the one who was leading the whole thing said, "Jeremy, you're right. We did that without telling you, and it was wrong." So I have done that. I've made people cry publicly in terms of their obstinance on an idea. So I have gone there, and to your point, Mark, guess what? Didn't work. Doesn't work. They
You
still
know,
did it, and it also didn't change anything. So.
a lot of times when I've gone ballistic, I've gotten the sense that agency leadership isn't interested in who's right or who's wrong. What they want is consensus,
Mm,
right? What they want is everybody singing from the
yeah.
same page. And
Yeah.
I get that desire, but I'm not sure creative should bear the brunt of that, right? And I will say this about this topic. Um, as I know most of my fans know, in the mid 2010s, I did a podcast with a colleague of mine, Jeff Lewanzik. We did a podcast called Unreal, and we were reviewing movies that like nobody else on the planet was reviewing.
Mm,
Current stuff, old stuff, every genre. And we get into arguments all the time. We had two very different mindsets around what makes a good film, what doesn't make a good film. Um, my point of view has always been and remains to this day that I need a film where the director knows what he's doing. And I don't mean a technically superior director. I'm talking about, does the director actually know what this film is about? You know, does the director understand his own vision? And Billy Bob Thornton once told a story about doing a film, and he didn't name the film. And honestly, I'm not sure what film he's talking about, but his story was that he was sent a script, he signed on to do the movie, and he thought he was doing a comedy,
oh my,
and the director was doing a drama.
oh my gosh.
And he actually, when he discovered this, he went to the director and he's like, listen, motherfucker, we know what's going on here. And I'm telling you, I'm going to stay on this film and I'm going to, meet my obligations. But you are fucking ruining your career and my career in the process.
Wow.
And it was, again, he wouldn't name the film. I'm dying to know which film this was. If anybody happens to know what film that was, I'd love to hear it. But at the end of the day, the director has to have a singular vision for what's going to appear on screen, for what the story is,
Yeah.
for what the characters mean in terms of their development and their role in bringing the story to life. And I think going back to the origin of this topic and what we're faced with, um, again, absent all the rest of it, uh, Baldoni had one vision of what this film was
Yes.
going to be,
Yes.
and Lively had another.
That's right.
And they did not mesh.
100%. Yeah.
And you can infer that there was no sense of compromise, which ultimately is a good thing because once you start compromising on your vision,
Yeah.
you're fucked in
Yes.
terms of like your direction. But that's kind of the battle that we've fought throughout our careers, is understanding that someone else doesn't share our vision and a lot of times doesn't trust that our vision is the right one, despite our experience, our track record, our role, and let's be honest, the fucking money that they're paying us.
Yeah.
Um, it's been unbelievably frustrating for me over the years.
Well, and that is where that's the one thing that consistently happened and consistently drove me crazy. And this reportedly, and I'm underlying reportedly, because like you said from the beginning, we don't know what happened. No one really knows what happened to Blake Lively. Those that were involved do probably. Um, but what Lively reportedly did was take her cut of the film that she did,
Oh yeah, I read about that. Yeah, yeah.
unbeknownst to Baldoni, to Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, and said, "What do you think?" Now, this is what drove me crazy. Same thing would happen when they said, "Hey, look, we showed it to our CEO, our CEO of the agency." I'm like, "Why wasn't I in that meeting?" And here's what
Right.
happens. The CEO, who has been involved in the process for a total of the 3 minutes she saw the idea slides. You still with me, brother? Don't lose your head. Mark's falling
Yeah.
apart.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay, I lost one AirPod, but I'm
All
right
right.
here with you.
No,
I'm right here
but
with you.
now the CEO who has been involved with this assignment that we've been working on night and day for almost 2 weeks is making decisions and
Yeah.
doesn't understand why, doesn't understand the vision, doesn't understand, like I said, even a manifesto has so many layers to it and the reasons for this and the reason. And you can say some generalities on it, but she's not the client or he's not the client. And the client has the final say, right? So we've got to satisfy them. So they may not be dialed in because they don't deal with the client day to day, what the client wants, and they're making decisions on this idea
Yeah.
on a spur of a moment and without the people who created it in the room. I don't even get a chance to defend it. And that to me is wrong. I don't like that.
No, I completely agree with you there. And listen, you kind of mentioned this earlier, and we've talked a little bit about this in previous episodes. That there's some feedback from whether it be account people or agency leadership, whatever, that does make a lot of sense, or frankly, that you just have to pay attention to for the sake of the creative. It's off brand, right? It's off strategy. The
Yeah,
research doesn't back it up. It's
right,
not right for the target. Another
right.
competitor just did this 6 months ago. Like, that's all meaningful feedback. But there's one other piece of feedback that took me a long time to learn to accept. And this is what you often get to in those situations you're describing, where the most senior leadership is weighing in on an idea that they haven't been close to at all.
Right.
And that piece of feedback is, I don't understand this, right?
Yes.
And there was a long time in my career where I was like, well, fuck you, you don't need to understand it.
Yeah.
You're not the target, you're not the client, blah blah. And it was a hard lesson learned. I learned it eventually, that she's not saying it's a bad idea. He's not saying it's off strategy. He's just saying he doesn't understand it. And I have to assume that, this person, because they're really smart, maybe the client won't understand it either.
Yeah.
So I need to make sure that, but you can't do that if you're not in the room and really okay, what don't you understand about it? Like, what's wrong with this? Like, you got to be specific, because I don't get it doesn't help, right?
Right.
And the fact that account teams will walk in and pitch creative to internal audiences without, forgetting about inviting you, without you even knowing about it,
Yeah.
is a disaster in the making.
I got to tell you an example of another thing that happens. And I do want to also get to Mark, what does someone do? When
Yeah.
you're struggling for creative control, what's that path? And I know we had an episode a while back I was just looking at in terms of creative conflict and how to handle that respectfully and productively. So go back and listen to that. So there'll be a lot of discussion on that there. But I remember another thing that would occur is for Hilton hotels. So we were working for Hilton, had Hilton account for 18 years, so we knew that inside and out. And this is back in the late 90s, man, where we presented to Hilton the notion that they should start talking about space travel. Space travel. SpaceX was now up, and in fact, I went to SpaceX and Elon Musk was not there, but I'm like, what's a SpaceX company, Um, and because we found a quote from Baron Hilton, Conrad's son, Baron Hilton, who said back in the 60s, almost as a joke and aside in this gathering of the group that he was talking to at the time, if there is ever a hotel on the moon, it would certainly have to be a Hilton. And we said, this is Barron, the son of the founder, is saying this. You
Yeah, you
guys
have an origin story.
Yes, you should lead the way. And at that time, there was a lot of space travel. The shuttle was in full swing, and the shuttle was an inexpensive way to get into space, and all the science and research and how to keep the astronauts healthy and comfortable, and sleep was a problem. And we're like going, this is your time. This is your time. And that one we ramrodded through our own team who thought it was like, dude, you're talking about space travel? Hilton's trying to sell rooms. Oh, it's got it. Boom, boom. And Doug and I, my mentor, hammered that thing through to approval, launched it, announced it, beat our chests about it, covered everywhere. And the SVP at Hilton shut it down 3 months later and said, I'm getting calls from shareholders saying, what the fuck are you guys talking about? How
Mm.
about fixing our hotels first? How about this? How about lowering our prices? How about, and they got hammered and let the franchisees and the shareholders, I'm sorry, the shareholders determine the marketing campaign. And so they killed it 3 months later. It was so embarrassing.
Mm.
So, and here we are now. Hilton could be owning that, right? Yeah, so that's another thing. It's like now the shareholders have a say, in the marketing and what it should be.
Yeah.
So,
Well, listen, I'm not suggesting that it's a good thing that shareholders are involved in any creative decision. But from the SVP's standpoint, I get it
yeah.
because he lives and dies by, by points percentage.
Yes,
The stock does X and he's doing
yes.
great. The stock does Y and his career is over. So, you mentioned, let's kind of talk about how you work these things. Um,
Hey,
my
Mark, before you get into that, just very quickly,
Yeah.
sorry, because I was going to come back to it, but I see where you're going. But Rob Page, who headed up Taco Bell PR for many years, he's been a guest on our show as well. And he said to me, because he used to work side by side at the agency, he and I were we were the creative warriors in the LA office. We were doing crazy. We were recommending crazy shit, and some of it was getting approved because we were successful for a long time. And
Right.
then he went to Taco Bell, and he's killing one idea after another. And so he and I had our own creative arm wrestling on the phone, and he goes, dude, it's different over here, brother. You're not taking those calls from the franchisees saying, what the fuck are you guys spending money on that for? I'm trying to sell our 99-cent meal is not going anywhere. And I invested money in this and da 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 da. And we were committed to that. It's nowhere mentioned in this. And you're over there doing silly things like this and handing out tacos to the entire country. What the hell are you think? He said, dude, you're not in that. You're not on those calls. And then I get called by the CEO. And then I get lacerated on that, and they're going, maybe we should get somebody in here who can do that. So it's easy for us creatives to sit back there, what the fuck, man? Fuck the shareholders, fuck the CEO. It's just, but I'm just to everybody out there, we're not naive. We understand that is an issue too, and I don't envy that position either. But to your
All
point,
right.
how do you navigate all that, which is where I think you were heading.
Yeah. As tough as this may be to swallow for a lot of creatives out there, um, the key is treating leadership as a client,
Mm,
right? And starting with that. And I'm talking about both account leadership, office leadership slash agency leadership. Anybody who is going to have a meaningful opinion that might disrupt your vision.
mm,
And when I talk about treating them like a client, I'm talking about something very specific. When I've been the most successful in my work has been when I have been able to sell ideas in pieces, right? So as much as I just live for the big reveal that's going to cause all the jaws in the room to drop, what I've come to realize is that it's better if you call the client up and get them to, take a look at the research. We're not anywhere yet. We just want to share this research with you. Let us know if there are any red flags. No, great. We're moving to the next step, and that's developing insights that are going to lead to that compelling strategy. And you share that strategy with them. And suddenly they're on board and you've stopped them from being a client and you've started giving them not only permission, but demanding that they act as co-conspirators,
Right.
right? They are no longer your clients, they are your accomplices. And when you can do that internally, it will short circuit the notion of, I don't get his vision, because you've given them the opportunity to be in on the vision from the jump. You were there for the creation myth, right? They understand where this came from, where you landed, and how you got there with all the steps in the middle. That's, to me, the best way to kind of, and you can't, and nothing's foolproof, but the best way to ensure that your vision is going to remain pure. In the same way, frankly, and listen, you're the fucking Hollywood guy, so I'm assuming that I'm gonna say something accurate here, in that you show dailies of your work to get producers and studio heads excited about what's going on and get them to kind of buy into what you're selling throughout the process as opposed to at the end.
Yeah.
Here's the kind of steering wheel we're going to use. Look how it feels in your hands. Here's the engine we're going to put in there. Can you feel that hum? Here's the speaker system that we're going to use. And you can feel it, completely, this immersive environment, as opposed to, hey, here's the car. Get in, take it for a spin.
Yeah.
It's worked for me in the past. Again, hard lessons learned, but for my money, that's one of the best ways, if not the best way, to kind of ensure the purity of your vision, and that it's going to face fewer, headwinds as you go through the process.
It's funny you say that because as you started talking, I wrote down here conspirators on a note here, and just to back up a little bit, many directors loathe sharing those dailies because they're afraid of that. They're afraid of what someone's going to see. Now, does the writer get to see it? Does the producer get to see it? Does the studio exec get to see it? Studio execs sometimes bake into those contracts. We will get the dailies, and that can make a mess too. But your point is well taken, and I think that is when I've had the most success because, and internally I'm talking, not to the client, but it works there too. But before our CEO, who's going to have the final say on our biggest accounts, when you're talking Bank of America, Hilton, Colgate, Ford, the CEO was going to have a say. She wants to know what we're putting over there, and so before it ever got there, I'm going individually to the influencers, and you know who they are in your workplace. Those people who have the ear of the CEO or have a sizable team. And if they say yes, then you're like, okay, this is a big, big contribution or a big supporter. And I'd get the feedback and the buy-in one-on-one. So
Yep.
by the time we're in front of the CEO, I don't have to say anything because they're going, but wait, you're not getting it. Here's the thing. The client told me in a meeting I was with them, and I'm like, there you go. And it doesn't look, the reason I like that dude is it didn't make me look defensive about an idea I was putting forth for
Right.
the creative team. It made me look like, hey, they're saying it. I'm just saying I like it. I don't know. You're gonna have to, and it really, and the other thing too is one of the things I stopped doing in terms of that is I stopped trying to shock and I moved more towards surprise
Hmm.
when presenting to somebody. I was always about, oh fuck, this is going to get a ton of news. This is going to blow them away, and they're like, oh my God. And I think I could dial it back for them, but it left them in such shock. And already the heads are doing this in the room. And so I agree with you on that little, what I called creative nudge. Just a little piece of it. Here it is. How could now it could do this and this, but right now we're just going to do one market. It's going to be not the Empire State Building. It's going to be a pool in my backyard. So, but no, I concur with all those things you just said are spot on, bro. For me.
Yeah. Have we covered it all?
I think so. Once again, our genius combined and our fearlessness to say, risk our careers so no one else has to. I think we once again brilliantly solved this puzzle that no one else has been able to solve in the world but us. I should go into
I
politics.
I can't I can't believe just how lucky our audience is
I know.
to have us.
I wonder,
What did people do before we showed up?
do any of your clients have they seen this? Do any of the clients you have
Uh,
watched this?
I the 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 short answer is I don't know.
Yeah,
Uh, I mean, I tell everybody about it. It's on, my LinkedIn page. It's in my resume. It's in my bio. Uh, I want to guess. If I had to guess, it would be no,
yeah,
just because I haven't received any feedback
yeah.
that says like, wow, the thing you covered or the thing you guys talked about, and
Yes.
can't believe he said that. Like, I haven't had any of that yet. Um, but of course, I haven't had any repeat customers, so maybe that's
Well, dude, actually, the best I got was it came up organically in a conversation with the client who wanted some podcasts, and I mentioned that I had a podcast. She goes, "Oh, really? I didn't know that." I was, "Oh, I don't mention it. I guess the other million people who listen probably haven't talked to you. I can see." I said, "No," but what I said was, "Well, I'll send it to you, and you can check it out." So I send it to her a couple days later, and I get back, "Interesting!" Exclamation point. So
yeah, yeah, that's like saying like, wow, you were really brave to wear that.
I can't believe you said this. Fucking good for you. But dude,
Oh my
always
goodness.
again, love hearing your take on things. You have
Back at you, man.
I've told you this many times that your analytical mind combined with that creative is, you open my eyes to other possibilities and other opinions and things like that. So thank you, brother. Always a good one. Yeah, you're the champ. You're the champ.
My
I'm gonna
pleasure.
In fact, I'm sending my clients to you. Why do I need it? We've got to find one together, dude. We got to work together on a client. We've been trying to do that. So anybody out
I
there,
don't, maybe it's, I don't think the world could take us together in a
that could
real
be
business
zero.
environment. Like
Yeah.
we're like, just stay in your podcast. Just don't rock the boat.
I must tell our listeners, and then we'll wrap it up. But I'll tell this story. Maybe I've told it before, but I went brief. Soon after we had hired Mark, so I flew to New York, and I go to his office. He was sleeping, so no, I went to his office, and he wasn't there. And they're like, "Oh, he's conducting a brainstorm, in the whatever room." And I said, "Okay, cool." So I'm getting closer to this room. I'm like, "What the fuck is going on?" Because I hear his voice above it. I walk in, and Mark is pacing up and down on the conference room table with a Hawaiian shirt on and tennis shoes. And he's going, "More! I need additional ideas. This group, move over there, share ideas on that wall. You share ideas." And I'm just like going, "Holy shit, this guy," like an explosion. And across the wall were ideas and bolded and circled. And I'm like, yeah, I think this is the right dude. This will do just fine. So I
Thank
remember
you,
that.
my friend.
Yeah. So
Thank
well
you.
done. Good on you, man. But
All
so
right,
anybody
man.
who wants
Well,
that kind of attitude, please call. Call 911.
for ugly, irresponsible, and childish, I'm Mark Levy.
I'm Jeremy Baca. Hope to see you again, everybody.
We will see you next week. Thanks, everybody.
Adios.